the BRAINFOOD cluster, the EPI-CLUSTER, and the Prevention of Severe Mental Disorders cluster. We are really happy that you accepted our invitation. And to the audience, I just want to say that we can read all your questions and we will try to answer them during this discussion. But maybe during the presentation, you already heard a bit of the clusters, but now I would like to give the word to the clusters themselves to introduce a bit your clusters. So maybe we can start with EPI-CLUSTER. So David.
Well, thanks very much, Kristien. Can everyone hear me okay? You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, super. So first of all, I'd like to thank EBRA for supporting EPI-CLUSTER. This is a really fantastic opportunity for us within the epilepsy research community. So briefly, the EPI-CLUSTER project came about as a result of an earlier large stakeholder meeting that was held in 2018 in Brussels. This meeting brought together a number of large-scale collaborative projects that were funded under the FP7 program to support epilepsy research within Europe. So there were 4 of these very large projects with over 250 scientists altogether that came together in Brussels to basically review the progress that was being made in the field of epilepsy research in Europe, and then lay out some of the future directions where we wanted to go as a field, and also to think much more about cooperation. Most of these projects had been working individually, separately from each other, and we realized that we could do much more together if we began to cooperate between these large projects. We also recognized that there were a number of stakeholders that weren't really represented within the current projects, and we'd like to bring more of those in. So that included certain patient organizations, a little bit more industry, and a kind of a political element. So the coordinators of these different FP7 projects came together under EPI-CLUSTER, and we made an application to EPI-CLUSTER and were selected for this. So EBRA already has been enormously helpful in shaping really the design of EPI-CLUSTER to identify and sort of pull out the best priorities for us to focus on. They've been helping with organization of events. They've identified stakeholders for us to bring them into the cluster, because while the EPI Exchange meeting was very good, it was very much focused just on the epilepsy community, and there's a lot of expertise outside of that community that we wanted to bring in for the longer term. So what we've done so far, EPI-CLUSTER has basically established this collaborative framework for the coordinated action of epilepsy research in Europe. We've agreed a number of shared priorities among the researchers. So this obviously includes epilepsy-specific research priorities, but also things like data sharing. A lot of these large projects generated very substantial human and preclinical data sets, and we'd now like to have systems in place to start to share this between the different groups. Another focus is around translation and bridging the big gap that still exists in epilepsy between the basic scientists and the clinicians, and try to accelerate really the discoveries from basic science into clinical practice more quickly. In addition to data sharing, we have a number of other infrastructures. We have large biobanks, both preclinical and clinical, which are available to the research community, but we don't really have anything in place yet to allow sharing of that. And then finally, I think the objective really is to develop joint funding initiatives to allow large-scale, ambitious programs of research in the field of epilepsy to be successful in the coming years. So the EPI-CLUSTER project will have 4 main events over the next 2 years. The first of these just finished. It was what we call a consensus meeting, which was held June the 17th. And the consensus meeting basically brought together the leadership again, and then also the first opportunity for stakeholders from other organizations to come in. So we had representatives from the Human Brain Project. We had representatives from Quest, which is an organization based in Berlin that tries to improve preclinical research and reproducibility. we had patient organizations, we had a representative from large pharma as well. And the outcome of this meeting was is actually just being finalized now, but essentially it's a declaration of cooperation between the EPI-CLUSTER leadership and the other stakeholders groups to work together and to move forward to support the priorities of EPI-CLUSTER. And then finally, one of the other things that came out of that initial meeting was an agreement to work towards a pan-European forum on the future of epilepsy research, which is something that our cluster will now help design and feed into, and that should be held towards the end of 2021. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, David. Very interesting. Let's now hear what the prevention of severe mental disorders is, or like what our cluster is about. So Ole Andreassen, your turn.
Yeah, hi. How are you? Good morning.
Good, thank you.
So my name is Ole Andreassen. I'm chairing together with Paolo Fusapoli the Prevention of Severe Mental Disorder initiative, and we're also very thankful for this opportunity and to be receiving this status. That's very important for us. So the background here is we have some ongoing networks in Europe in this field through the ECNP, the European College of Neuropsychopharmacology. And we have focusing there, like we heard from the epilepsy, to bridge together different groups in mental disorder research. And we have here a team now that is involved in the prevention of severe mental disorder, are focusing on the severe types, which is bipolar disorder and psychotic disorders. And we have a very transdisciplinary team with everything from pharmacology to basic research to interventions and translational research. And we have seen that we really need to sort of focus more, integrate more stakeholders and user groups, and that is part of this initiative now. And it's also going to be used as like a vehicle to drive other initiatives, as we now have this body to work together. And what is a bit about the rationale here is that severe mental disorders are, it's emerging now some more evidence, some better treatments. You can start earlier, and also there are some indications that there are some severe cases may be preventable. So the overarching topic is then prevention. And that has also quite a lot of ethical and kind of scientific and societal aspects. So, and I think that is an excellent opportunity now to bridge these different parts and work together in a, what I call it, a multidisciplinary approach. And what we specifically, Paolo Fusapoli and myself, we are sort of coordinating a team of people all over Europe. We will, the main aim then, or the focus is on a couple of white papers or opinion papers that we will sort of have them as a delivery. And we will also, we have just recently started, and this will be end up in, like, it's a broad process. We want to engage different groups, different participants, and then have a meeting end up in Brussels, a couple of meetings where we discuss this sort of new approach of prevention. And it's supposed to be both for setting the scientific agenda. There's tremendous opportunities here, but then we need to work together, and then have societal impacts, so not just the scientists are running and making the calls, but this has a bigger impact on society, and we need to have a broad support and an interaction with the different stakeholders. So I think that is all for now.
Okay, thank you, Ole. Very interesting. And of course, we are looking forward to your activities in the future, in the next 2 years. And then the last cluster that is here today, it's the BRAINFOOD cluster. So we have Suzanne Dickson and Roger Adan. So Roger, yeah, you can introduce your cluster now.
Well, in fact, I am going to introduce it. Yes, so our cluster is about nutrition and brain health, and we were really excited that this cluster was recently supported by EBRA. We have not started our activities, we're a new cluster. It's chaired, as you said, by Professor Roger Adan from Utrecht in the Netherlands and myself at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden. It kind of emerged out of the ECNP nutrition network. Our initial focus was on mental health, but thanks to EBRA, we're now looking to expand in the area of neurology also. It's our kind of mission to separate somewhat the fact from the fiction. You see a lot of misinformation, especially in the popular literature, things that are published. And we want to explain what would be needed in the future in order to provide an evidence base for nutritional advice. So we have around 20 to 25 partners currently in our cluster. We're mostly neuroscientists and some clinicians, even nutritionists. We have some patient and advocacy organizations. We have one food industry representative, and we're looking to expand and have people affiliated to us, also more from the food industry and from these types of organizations. So our big ambition is to really put nutrition and brain health on the EU agenda. If you could imagine, a high-level goal for our network would be to have an IMI equivalent for nutrition and brain health. So why do we need EBRA? Well, we're scientists essentially that can network well in Europe. We've all been involved in many EU projects, but we feel there's a translational gap. We would like to accelerate the impact of our collective knowledge on nutrition and brain health to the stakeholders, including those that can influence the EU agenda. We really need EBRA to help us identify the networks, the stakeholders, and help us with activities linked to policy and advocacy, because it's not really our expertise as scientists and clinicians. And we really want to benefit from EBRA because it offers this knowledge across Europe. Our activities, well, I guess we only have two main activities. The ultimate activity is to hold a policy forum meeting between BRAINFOOD participants, politicians and policymakers, including EU representatives, to present the recommendations of the BRAINFOOD cluster. And so our first activity will then be to hold our first internal meeting and to identify people that we would like to participate in that meeting, to figure our agenda, to work out what our recommendations are, and then to decide on how we're going to reach those involved in policy. So I think that's mostly what I would like to convey. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. So good morning, everyone. My name is Frédéric Destrebecq. Sorry for being slightly late. Actually, we are having back-to-back presentations of EBRA in two different sessions, and I was caught in what was a longer discussion than planned. Actually, I wanted to share with the group that there was a kind of lively debate that started on the topic of collaboration and the actually the relevance or the benefit that EBRA could provide to community of researchers. And Suzanne, as you mentioned, also in link to policymakers. So actually that was our next question to the three representatives, albeit Suzanne, you covered it slightly. But I would like to now to turn to Ole and David to ask as to how you felt or how you feel that EBRA can contribute, or actually that you and colleagues can benefit from being now recognized as a cluster. So I'll probably turn to Ole first.
Thank you. So we have seen, we are scientists working with all kind of methods and p-values and writing papers, but we see for the really big impact to really reach where we want policymakers to be. We've seen, so many times we have made a lot of discoveries, we have research findings, but nothing happens in a way. We don't have the tools to sort of make it implemented in practice. And also we on the other hand, we as scientists see great opportunities. If you do this and that and fund those kind of programs, we will see a lot of improvement. But that is, we don't have the kind of tools or the approaches to reach the policymakers. And I think working together there is really, really important on a European level. And I think that is really where I see the benefit.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, I would agree with what Ole said. We're in a similar position. We're also groups of scientists and clinicians. And what we don't have, there is just no mechanism at the moment really that I'm aware of that helps organize these types of cooperative activities that also have the political know-how that can help sort of direct us towards the right people, and that can help organize meetings and bring in the right stakeholders from outside our own particular research area. And it's the unique thing that we're getting from EBRA here. So yeah, I agree with Ole.
Okay, yeah, because another topic that actually surfaced in the discussion was to say, okay, if the community gets organized, the community gets together, but we engage that connection and we start, basically lobby policymakers, there is one thing that actually would provide superpower to all of us, is alignment. And I think that when we started discussing with every one of you and there is obviously our fourth cluster on trisomy 21, one of the basic, let's say, element of first activity that we suggested was just to make sure that everybody is singing from the same spreadsheet, basically, and how we can create consensus. I don't know if this is something that you share, that's at your respective levels. And I would say open question to anyone who would like to answer that.
I think if I speak first from the epilepsy research community, there is I would say fairly good convergence on what the current at least research challenges are and the clinical care challenges. Those sort of priorities and were kind of mapped out relatively recently. In fact, during the period between the first EPI exchange meeting and the formation of EPI-CLUSTER, we put out a white paper which really laid out our vision and, if you like, a sort of a mission level Horizon Europe style approach to solving the challenges of epilepsy and when we would expect to sort of deliver on those areas. So I think as a community, we're quite well organized in terms of our priorities, but I don't know really if we have a sense, are we aligned and heading in the right direction to be influential in terms of future funding programs. That's what we don't know, and we don't really know how to do that. And that's one of the things that we're hoping with EBRA support that we'll have, make roads into how to convert what we feel is the consensus of what's needed in the field, but to then turn that into actions, things like IMI calls or Horizon Europe. And of course, we all know that there isn't yet a kind of a brain level mission in Horizon Europe.
Yeah. Thank you.
Short comment. So I think, we as scientists are always competing. I want grants and everything, and my field is so much more important than yours. But I think here, just in the beginning, we had several applications that we asked to merge, and it's so much better to have a combined sort of team than having all these small teams that can't talk together. And I like for the funding and like tension from Brussels politicians. I don't think it is brain food or epilepsy or severe mental illness. It is space programs or whatever, windmills, or there's the big so I think we are so much better joining forces than having some kind of fighting in between smaller programs.
Yeah, it's very important what you're saying, Ole, and particularly as just to make a small policy parenthesis, we are in the middle of those negotiations on budgets, what is called the multi-annual financial framework of the whole EU budget. So from this, we will know how much is dedicated to research and innovation. And from there, we will have to basically compete as health research community with fields such as, and it's ridiculous because it's with fields like climate change or sustainable development and all the rest of it. And we feel that all of these are already so much intertwined. So not to mention within the health sector and the brain space. Suzanne, you'd like to maybe say or echo in that respect?
I'd like to say something on behalf of brain health. The brain health EBRA cluster. So I think in general, so nutrition is a bit different than the other fields because nutrition to begin with is a very dispersed field. There are companies, of course, everybody has an opinion. So, and then there's nothing specific for brain health. So nutrition, of course, has also impact on any disease. So therefore, we're happy to have this cluster. So I think it's really going to be a challenge for us to first bring all the stakeholders together and to formulate an agenda, because there's such a large gap, as Suzanne already indicated, between on one side opinions, science, and then of industry, and of course the great opportunity that there is. So we really like to bridge this gap, but it all starts with, of course, bringing everybody together and then reach consensus. And of course, we need to align really a lot of different stakeholders, and so. Well, we hope to manage this in the coming year.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. Maybe before we conclude, because we are hitting the end of the time allocated, but I think we can maybe take a few more minutes before concluding. Just wanted to ask David again, because you actually had that first meeting of the cluster in order, bringing everybody together and having this kind of discussion. How did you feel, David, that it would bring you forward in that respect, and what next steps you can envisage building on that first activity?
So the first activity for me went almost better than I was hoping for, because when we originally put together the idea for EPI-CLUSTER, that was sort of a more than a year or so in the past, and of course everybody's drawn in, pulled in different directions, and new things come along, but there was very strong and complete agreement that the kind of EPI-CLUSTER idea and the EBRA model is exactly what we need. So there was, complete agreement and enthusiasm to support this from the leadership group. I was also really pleased with the enthusiasm to join EPI-CLUSTER from some of the groups that were outside of that, and to contribute and to work together. So there's a really tangible sense of cooperation, not just within our field, but outside of that. And I think that's down to EBRA and the broader kind of network of stakeholders in the brain field who definitely want to achieve good things into the future. So in terms of our plans going forward, not so much has changed. We're having a meeting probably Q4, so towards the end of this year, which will review some of the scientific priorities and then make plans really for moving some of these areas like funding initiatives forwards, and a kind of consensus on other issues and challenges around data sharing and infrastructure and this sort of thing. And then what we'd really like to do also is maintain the industry interest in the centre and kind of grow that, because there is a bit of industry interest, but it's not as much as we would like. So yeah, those are the plans currently.
Excellent. Well, thank you, David, and I would say thank you to all our speakers, Suzanne, Roger, Ole. It was a great pleasure to have you all on the same panel. That was a first in kind that we wanted to basically use this opportunity to gather all the clusters representatives, and we look forward to having the opportunity to do that in real life. So thank you again for your time.
I have a question.
Yes, sure. Oh, okay. So we have a question about. Actually, I was coming to that, but maybe Kristien, you could maybe respond to it. For how long
Yes.
would the 5th or 6th cluster be supported? Until October 2021.
Yes.
Actually,
So,
I'm even tempted to include a panelist from the European Commission to ask the question to see how we could negotiate an extension or EBRA 2 already. But anyway, go ahead, please.
no, so to answer this question on the 5th or 6th cluster, so officially, of course, this is until October 2021, but in the actual situation, we asked for an extension, so it should be extended to April 2022. But nothing is confirmed yet, but this, if you apply for a cluster, you just keep in mind April 2022, and yeah, we are very happy to welcome new clusters. So I would say just apply, and then in September you will hear if you're selected or not, and what EBRA can do for you.
Yeah, so that's the important date to remember. And in conclusion, I just wanted to invite anybody to apply, as Kristien was saying. Feel free to contact us, be in touch. The deadline will be the 1st of September. And we look forward to establishing new groups as the ones that you were presented today. And also stay tuned on social media and all channels, because we had the premiere also of the EBRA presentation video that will now be circulated on our various channels. And obviously we will continue to report on all EBRA's activities, as well as primarily the clusters activities. So stay online and feel free to reach to us, and we'll happily be in touch. So thank you all for your time and your contribution, and have a good rest of the day. And